Hey guys, thanks for jumping in. Obviously, we've got the beautiful Lisa Murphy with us today. Now, Courts will hopefully be jumping in. I know that she was up in the hills, so I wasn't going to make it back here in time. So she's with Suzanne Leonard this morning, who does amazing work, and she, thought that she might not get done. So depending on what time she finishes, she'll probably jump in and join us or whatever anyway. We might as well get started. So we want to just start out with, who are you? So tell us a bit about Lisa in the lead up to where you are now, like what you've done previously, etc.
Okay, cool. I'll try and be brief because I have a bit of a habit of talking about myself a lot, so I'll try and keep it brief. But I suppose in relation to where I am now in my journey, I guess it really started probably when I took the opportunity to do a Rotary exchange over to Sweden after I finished high school. I spent 12 months in Sweden, and that just totally changed my world as I knew it.
Wow.
And it just basically fed that that travel addiction, I guess, from a pretty early age. And once I got home from that experience, it just really altered my my centre, I guess. And I probably tried a few different careers before I realised that the gravitational pull to be in the travel industry was still incredibly strong. And after being a social worker, a teacher, eventually I landed in travel as a travel agent. And I basically started from scratch in my 30s doing a traineeship with Flight Centre.
Wow.
And
cool.
I basically my husband and I have always been huge travellers and huge adventure travellers, but we booked a trip to Peru and South America, and I'd said to the agent that worked with me then to organise our holiday, what do I need to do to have your job? You know, how can I work in this agency? And she just said, basically, go and get a job at Flight Centre and get those skills and experience, and then come and speak to me. And sure enough, I did exactly that. And once I'd been in the industry for about 12, 18 months, I started to get job offers to, go to other agencies, because my travel experience was
massive,
varied and extensive, and that's sometimes a little bit rare in the travel agents.
Yeah.
Travel agents. So I sort of landed on my feet big time. And I've always been such a job jumper. I've obviously hopped careers and hopped employers a lot over my time, but it's probably the first time I've found an industry where I'm like, wow, I think I've just found my calling. But it just took a long time to get to that point. So I've probably started a bit later in the industry than a lot of people, but I think my life experience and my travel experience before that probably set me up to be where I am now. So
absolutely. It's a lot like teachers and stuff, though, I think, as well. Sometimes even coming into doing teaching in your 30s or whatever. I mean, my dad actually did when I did year 10, 11 and 12, he actually went to uni and did a science degree and a diploma of education in those 3 years, and then became a teacher. So the life experience that you bring with that is tremendous. So I can imagine, why they were hungry for you, and particularly in the travel industry, because yes, you do some travel within the centre you're working in if they do trips, but if you go into that out of school or very early, you haven't done anything.
Well, that's right. I think, and even having come back as an exchange student at 18 and having travelled Europe back then, that was so unique for the 90s. Like, I felt like quite a rare breed. That was before gap year was even invented, I think. But having said that, I know people obviously always went over to Europe and the UK, back in the day. But in that sort of era, travel was so expensive. I mean, a return airfare to Europe was $2,500, $3,000. It was just so expensive.
One sec, I'll let the dog in, but keep going.
Yeah, sure. Back then it was almost more of a privilege and a treat, whereas now travel is such an everyday experience. I think so many more people are accessing cheaper travel opportunities. So perhaps 20 years ago it wasn't so, and to do some of the things that I did back then and the kind of travel that I'm really attracted to, which is not so much the resort holiday, but the adventure stuff, is also unique. So it's also unique that I've done that too, because and I think too, being a female doing that too is even rarer as well. So I've definitely sort of picked something a little bit unique that I absolutely love. It's like my oxygen. There's really no other way that I can kind of explain it. But yeah, I just absolutely love it. I can barely finish one adventure before I'm planning another one. So and I think for a lot of people who travel, that's how it is for them too. So
well, that's the best part about it, because I think in business, if you're not passionate about your product or what you do or the service you provide, then people won't get that. And so, it needs to be just exactly what and who you are and light you up, because
exactly, it's like genuine enthusiasm, which I know, like even people like Sue Ellen have said that sort of stuff comes through on a video. It's just like it's like that energy for what you do is just unwavering. And I think the thing is too is with the sort of travel experiences I've had in the past, the way that it changes you on the inside is kind of what led me to want to do that or have that influence or impact in other people. So I think that it's just been a stepping stone of wanting to share that experience and that mind shift or that sense of self that you achieve sometimes through an active travel experience or adventure travel experience, that I then decided, well, I think the world could do with a bit more of that. So I think that's another reason why I'm thinking I can make my mark in this world by encouraging that kind of positive travel experience, I guess, and positive, emotional
experience. Yeah, I think so. I mean, the combination of it being much cheaper to be able to travel and get away now is meaning that more people are doing it. And I think that, sharing what you do with people that maybe didn't end up traveling when they were younger, so then it can be a bit daunting to do it when they're a little bit older and they're a bit unsure.
Absolutely.
You can share that knowledge to help them even just take the step to actually do it, not to mention actually the transition and transformation they can have through the journey.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's the thing. I absolutely love the hand-holding that comes with that for, guiding someone through that process of, okay, first time overseas, what are all the things you need to think about and consider, and all of the, documentation and legal stuff that needs to go with that. But yeah, just the questions that, you get when you're assisting someone for the first time that's never been through an airport departure lounge and all of that stuff, that you forget that when you've been in the industry a long time. But I actually love doing that process with people because it just takes me back to the beginning of, well, that's what it was like for me, and I can never forget, how overwhelming it might have been to say goodbye to people. Yeah, with tears streaming down your face because you're not going to see 12 months. But the excitement and the adventure of, wow, I'm independent, I'm doing this for myself, and blah, blah, blah. And there's a real sense of achievement when you do that for yourself as well. And I really love seeing that in people that haven't maybe travelled much before, and particularly seeing women in middle age and beyond, doing that for the first time as well is just really, really exciting too. So
yeah, that's brilliant. Well, it's probably a good segue into what your business is now. So if you want to go into a little bit more detail in that, and particularly obviously in the way that you've incorporated that true personal growth where you're really helping people on a grander scale, they get more than they bargained for, don't they?
Absolutely. I've always said that our trips are more than just a trek because, of course, not all of what I do is about trekking, but I started this company, Big Heart Adventures, last year, and basically I've been, as I said, an agent for 8 years, wanted to start this touring company so that I can create these travel experiences that are really unique, but also guide women and take women through that process, sometimes for the first time. But yeah, the walks that I tend to put together are for beginners, so women that have never done a multi-day walk or hike before, never sort of had that, carrying a pack and heading off. But I also tailor these. It is,
because I haven't actually done that before. And we lived overseas before, just after we got married, before children, so we got a chance to do some of that, but I've never actually gone off just with a group, had my own pack and, had that adventure. And there's
something really satisfying about doing that for yourself. And look, there are generally two ways that I say that people can do it. We call it a glamping option, which is by no means a sign of weakness or anything like that, but the glamping is often the recommended way of going, because you don't need to carry 15 kilos of gear. You can carry a day pack, but the walks are structured so that each night you've got beautiful lodge style accommodation, and you're not carrying anything more than maybe five kilos, which is your water, your lunch, and your raincoat and things like that.
Yeah.
And walks that I pick for that are very specific, because they often have luggage options where, you know, your luggage is taken to the next lodge or hotel that night. So it's a wonderful supportive sort of introduction to a walking tour.
Yeah,
and it's
perfect.
obviously in some of the most beautiful places you could lay eyes on. Photos often don't do justice.
I've got goosebumps down my arms just thinking about it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly the sort of, you know, reaction I hope that people would have, because it is one of those lovely soul-searching sort of reflective ways of traveling that, you know, when you're walking, even if you're walking silently on your own, or if you're walking and talking with others, or even if you're really challenged by what you're doing, it really does shift your mindset, giving you confidence perhaps in something you didn't think you could do before, which is often the biggest thing for a lot of women as well. Or just having that clarity around life, because they're not on that treadmill of life and that rat race that we all get caught up in. So the trips are very much about me time, but also very much about challenging your inner self and finding perhaps some strength in yourself you didn't know you had, and also lots of other things as well. I find I become more creative when I travel. I have lots of ideas. I like to write. I have much more of a broader sense of the world, whereas when I'm home and, you know, in that pattern of work, very difficult to channel that. So yeah, these types of trips, as I said, are just specifically designed for first timers or women that just like to glamp. And there's, as I said, no shame whatsoever in a good glamping experience, especially the food and the wine, and, you know, the quality of experience that tends to go. Yeah, exactly. Wine. That's right. I said wine. So yeah. So I know it's a perk, put it that way. I'll leave it as a perk. But of course, I also myself still enjoy carrying that 15 kilo or 18 kilo bag and setting off on what I would call a trek. Yeah. So the overland track in Tasmania, for example, is a fabulous trek. You've got trekking in Nepal, Peru. The Kokoda track is a perfect example of trekking as well. Yeah. So I love those ones as well, because you know, it is an absolute physical challenge, and I think that the journey around that is even more powerful than you know, walking with a day pack. Sometimes I think that really, you know, you'll get moments of tears and frustration, exhaustion, all of that stuff, but I see that as a real character building process. And some of my most you know, deepest sort of intense travel experiences have happened on a trek like that. For example, the Kokoda track was completely life-changing for me. I still to this day reflect on that walk, and, or not even a walk, it's a trek, I guess, but reflect on that whole experience with just such a different sense of self and a different sense of world. You know, Australia's nearest neighbours, you know, practically from Australia, it's so close, and yet culturally so diverse and socioeconomically so diverse. It's a real education, and that also, I guess, comes down to what travel is all about. It's one of the best educations you'll ever get in life, and I think I've learned a lot more through the act of travel than I probably did at school, dare I say it. And I was quite an academic at school, so that's a bit nerdy for me to admit.
But it's true. Yeah. The world experience that we have is massive. In fact, last night, somehow we switched into some channel when my husband came in later. I was working in the office, and there was I don't know if anyone saw it, but there must have been like Survivor, but it must be an English thing that they've done, and it's called something, an island or something. And there was,
yes, I watched that with Bear Grylls.
Yeah, with Bear Grylls, yeah. So all we caught was sort of maybe 20 minutes of whatever last night's was. It looked like it was almost a wrap up of what it was. So it was them leaving the island and then each reflecting on it before. And, you know, we were both crying watching it. And it's exactly like you say. It's, you know, when they talked about it, they said how it was the most horrific and the worst and the most exhilarating and amazing experience of my life. But the way that it made them reflect on their life and value things completely differently is what being a little bit more worldly does, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just builds and builds and builds on making you a better person, I think, at the end of the day. Because I think when you're in that situation, because I did watch that program and they all looked like they... I couldn't have even eaten the crocodile that they killed, you know, like I just can't, that would have challenged me, you know, and I would have, you know, come out of that experience different to how I would have been before, you know. It would have been such a test. And I think not every walking trip that we do has to be like that, but it just has to... That
was an extreme.
If that was an extreme. But it has to contribute somehow to a mind shift, even if it's just, you know, reflecting each day about what you're doing. At the end of a trip, you'll look back and still reflect, you know, on different things at different times. And I think, I think travel really does open up doors for that to happen. Whereas when you're home and you're not in that space, it just doesn't happen. So
no, you don't allow. So I mean, I think like Lisa said on Friday at the Smart Chicks event, you know, if you're not growing, you're dying. And when you're traveling and doing those and expanding your mind and challenging yourself, you are definitely growing. So we're all, you know, anybody I think that's in the entrepreneurial space is constantly having to grow and evolve. And I'm really excited to actually talk to you more about this so that I can definitely find a time to be able to do something, because I think it would be amazing to do that.
It would be awesome. It would be just awesome. And I do appreciate too that, you know, the products that I offer are a bit once in a lifetime for many people. You know, it's not the sort of trip that a lot of women choose because they often have families. They feel as though they don't deserve this kind of experience. So it's very important for me to point that out, because you know, on our we had a group of wonderful, fabulous, inspiring women that came to New Zealand with me in February for our inaugural Wise Women Walking Tour, and with the guilt that a lot of women felt and shared about that trip, it was really interesting and difficult for them to accept that this was what they needed in their life at that time, and that they benefited from it so much when they came home for everybody. So it is important to, I suppose, consider if a trip like this is going to assist you in with your contribution to life, your family, the world, because it isn't something that people generally, particularly women, generally prioritise for themselves. So, we just had such a diverse range of women as well on our trip. So it was mums, retirees, women not married, not so single women. It was just such a lovely variety of women that all came together and shared that journey together as well. So I can appreciate that it is a unique experience and not necessarily something that would appeal to everybody either.
No.
A lot of people are put off by the fitness element of it. But I always like to tell people, don't worry, we get you ready.
Yes.
So we try and walk with you leading up to the walk, and it's for women of all levels of fitness and ability. So we really do create an entry-level experience. So fitness should never, lack of fitness should never be in any of our women. So we guide and support them, on that as well.
So that probably moves into who do you service. So who would you say is your niche target market that you say, if you were speaking to, 2 or 3 key people, who would they be?
Yep. I have probably 2 key markets, if that makes sense. I've got obviously the women's trips, which are solely for women, and particularly a beginner who's never perhaps done a multi-day walk before. But then that sort of experience can also attract a woman that has done that kind of thing before and is maybe looking for an easier walk than a trek. Yeah. So that's very much the market for one set of my trips. The other set of the trips is those treks that I mentioned, which are a lot more challenging, and I do actually open those trips up to men and women because my husband is a keen trekker as well, and the bigger picture is sharing those experiences with him once this business grows and he can work with me. And, of course, our next trip to Nepal in November is a mixed trip. So we've got guys and girls booked onto that trip, and we still welcome men and women onto that trip as well because we do have a few spots left on that one. So, with my two distinct markets are a very active male and female market who love a good challenge, and then I've got my women's trips, which are definitely designed for a newer walker, basically.
Okay, awesome. So Zone of Genius, we've sort of probably talked about hubby sitting on my left. Oh, thanks for there. That's great. I love it. He's like, awesome. We could do one.
Yes. Well, it's for smart chicks and clever Richards. So I do have a market for the clever Richards out there. So thanks for that feedback, Adair. I'm very pleased to see and hear that.
Perfect. That's perfect. Adair, maybe you can do the gentle one with us and you can work up to doing that one with him later.
Yes, exactly.
So Zone of Genius, obviously your experience in travel is a big part of that. So if you could give us a couple of nuggets, what would you say in regards to, key things that you can help us with?
I think I suppose there's success stories I could share about the women that attended the first trip.
That'd be great.
Yeah, so we had women that had never ever completed anything like it before. We had women challenged on a couple of levels with fitness, which didn't prevent them from being a part of our trip. And even though this particular walk allowed people to skip some sections of the track, we were all actually able to finish together, which was a huge win for everybody. So we could finish as a team, which was brilliant. And there were lots of tears at the end when that happened. So, and I think everyone as a group really acknowledged their strengths and weaknesses. And so that was a real exciting element to the trip, which is what I want to share with so many of the smart chicks out there, because I know there'll be women sitting there now going, I could never do that. Yes, you can.
So can you give me a rough idea, day by day, what sort of length is the walk?
Yep, so the walk, I'll talk about the New Zealand one because it is the perfect entry-level trip for newbie walkers. It's usually walking time of anywhere from 3 hours up to, the hardest day is about 8 hours. Now, that particular day, if people are unable to do that day for whatever reason, because, for example, we had a lady roll her ankle or sprain her ankle quite badly on the first day, so that particular day meant that she just caught a water taxi to the next hotel. So all I'm saying is we have non-walker options and walker options for that particular trip, because we acknowledge that, some days aren't going to be possible for everybody, but it shouldn't prevent them from being a part of this wonderful experience. And the 3-hour walking days are still going to be very doable for a lot of the women that want to be a part of it. But of course, a lot of the women that did this last trip trained together and built their fitness up slowly, and we saw some wonderful achievements and gains for those women, which also was part of their journey as well. So awesome.
So
I think the other nugget
can do it.
And the second nugget I think would be that all of our trips give back in some way, and for this I suppose in this day and age, we are, I think, an incredibly wealthy country. We have, even though I have a business that's in its early stages, and money is still tight for all of us, it's even tighter and non-existent in a lot of places in our world. So I think that if there's any way at all that we can change this world, it's going to be through not just learning and growing, but through giving. And we have a huge number of beneficiaries that we work closely with. We have supported a young carer receive tuition. We support Essentials for Women South Australia with our free weekend walks that we offer at the moment for women throughout winter. Operation Flinders Foundation, Himalayan Development Foundation Australia, and of course I'll get to that with the Nepal fundraiser dinner.
Yes.
And we support Catherine House and Hutt Street Centre as well, and that's just, dare I say, at the beginning. I just have such huge ideas for how we can support a lot more of the wonderful organisations that are also changing people's lives here as well as abroad.
Yeah.
So it's hugely important to me. And I will still do my give back even if my business is not paying me. So I'm very, very passionate about that.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant.
Absolutely. So yeah.
That's really exciting. That's great. So we've sort of done stories. So what about an offer? Now that it might be a little bit trickier for you. I don't know. Did you think about this one? Yeah.
Yes, it really had me thinking. And I decided that because I don't expect people to obviously sign up for a trip straight away after just talking with me today and listening, but I do free walks every month for women, and my offer to Smart Chicks is come and have a walk and I will shout you coffee at the end.
Yay. Oh, that's good. So where are the walks and when are they?
Yes, so I've got 2 walks left for this year, and the next one is at Belair, and that'll be in the national, part of Belair National Park. It's dog friendly, so you can bring your pooch.
Cool.
And it'll be the waterfall hike, so it's a moderate walk. Yeah. Now, I've also got in September, we're going to follow the Marion Coastal Trail along the coastline down there at starting at Kingston Park, and that walk is just an out and back, so you can't get lost. You can turn around if you've had enough. It's for all abilities and all abilities. Right. I think that one. There's a few stairs though, so it's up to people whether they'd like to come along and be a part of that. And I think the idea is for next year too, I'll of course have more of these wonderful walks. It's brought a lot of women into the walking scene who haven't been a part of it before. And probably one of my biggest success stories, if I can please quickly share that.
Yeah, please do.
I have had a fabulous woman joining our free weekend walks, and she started thinking it was just about her having her me time, which was super important. I was just so happy that she was doing that because she doesn't do that in her life outside of that. Yeah. And her children and her husband are so envious of what she's doing. She went out and bought boots. They all wanted their own boots, and they are now all doing family adventures together, and it's all because of these free. I just think
that's amazing.
The ripple effect. The ripple effect is also really important to me, and I'm really happy that it's instilling that sense of adventure in the next generation as well. So I think it's a win of sorts, and I feel really happy for her and her wonderful family that, that they're all seeing the benefits of getting out in nature, and that's so important as well. So
that's awesome. It is, isn't it, Indy? That's cool. And Jackie, I agree. I think the Tassie one sounds amazing. I've only been to Tassie to play volleyball many moons ago, and I haven't been to just sort of have a holiday or to do that, but I have heard how beautiful you'd go to. Oh, awesome, Indy. Okay, Jackie, Indy, that's 3 of us.
We need to have a special Smart Chicks departure.
That's right. We might have to see if we can rally up any troops. And so what sort of number of ladies do you normally have on the, what's kind of your minimum and maximum sort of numbers?
Definitely. I usually need about 6 women to make a trip viable, and a maximum of 10 plus myself. So, usually a group of 10 plus a host or a leader like myself. So, we keep it small. It's all about that. It's such a holistic experience. So we don't in a bigger group, but that isn't as successful. As what it. I think the smaller the better.
Well, you get more bonding, don't you? Yeah, because
absolutely, bonding
you
is
get
really
to
important.
Know each other. Yeah, which is lovely.
Absolutely. Yeah, and look,
awesome.
Yeah, it's just I suppose another observation is that women often choose these experiences for a whole range of reasons. So it's up to people what they want to get out of it. If they're wanting to find themselves again, which is usually my theme for the women's trips. you know, we have plenty of opportunities to help people to find themselves, to be themselves, and to challenge themselves. So with that theme in mind, if people are attracted to that idea, that's kind of the journey, if you like, that women are taken on as part of that experience. So
yeah, that's awesome. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Now, have you got a website or even links with the information and the walks and all of that, so I can put that in the
Yes.
upload?
Yes, absolutely. I've got a link for the August 21st walk and also the 4th of September walk. They're going to be released to the outside world today, so I'll pop them in a link to the post somehow, or get that to you as well if Smart Chicks are interested in coming along to that. And those events will go live on Facebook on Big Heart's page later this week as well. So it's giving Smart Chicks a chance to get in first before it goes live, because I do cap numbers for the free walks because, it's a bit easier to maintain the masses. So,
herding sheep or cats.
I know. I need to bring a few kelpies in to round them all up. So, it's all good. It's all good. But, I've really appreciated the opportunity to share my story and share what I do with everybody. And, thanks so much for listening. It's lovely to see some participants on the participants line. So hi guys, and thanks so much for your time.
Awesome. Let me just stop the recording.